So I wrote this book with the idea that I could create a, let's say, source material for people who are living as Noahides to share or to tell them that they're not alone. What I've noticed is speaking with quite a number of Noahide people that it's not easy to live your life as a Noahide because, there's just not a really large community of people. And especially in the United States, it's a very large country. People are spread out all over the place. And another thing that I realized and noticed is that a lot of people come from Christianity who then become Noahides. And a lot of people, they were very deep into the church. They were raised in the church. And so they were used to having a large community. Their family was part of the church and their friends. And the moment that they started learning more about the Hebrew Bible, they started raising questions. And then eventually that led them to step away from their church and religion altogether. But by taking that step, they lost their friends, they lost their community, and now they're on their own. And maybe they're literally on their own, or they're on their own with their family and maybe young children. But typically, there's no other Noahide families or community around them. And so when I was speaking with these people, I thought, you know what, I want to gather stories of other Noahides who are going through a similar process. And I want them to be able to learn that they're not by themselves, not alone. And I also want to have the book contain resources and information, not only books, but also, people dealing with the question of, I have little kids, how do I raise them? What school do I send them to? If the Noahides cannot homeschool their children, how do you deal with that? Do you send them to a public school and then the kids are almost forced to celebrate Christmas and Easter and all these holidays that Noahides no longer celebrate or find valuable? So the book really is to help other Noahides to learn that there are more people like us out there, and it also contains a lot of resources like books and websites and names of rabbis who focus on Noahide teachings. Every interview that I've done, at the end there are key lessons that come out of the lived experience of all these people. These lessons are more universal, so you can actually, when you read their story and then you read the lessons, you can learn from that and find maybe wisdom and valuable information in that. So that's the whole goal of the book, and hopefully the Noahide laws and the Torah wisdom spreads and touches other people. What makes it special? Well, I love being able to learn Torah, and what I never realized. So of course I wasn't a stranger to the Bible, but I always thought that it was a collection of stories, like like Harry Potter, just made up stuff, and I never could find any valuable lessons inside those stories. But the moment that I started learning the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, I learned that there is so much wisdom inside of each of these stories. There are many, many different layers inside these stories. You can you can read a parasha and then layer that story over your day-to-day life and take wisdom out of these stories and apply that to your life. Another part that I love about Judaism and learning more about it is that there is a lot of focus on relationship, having good relationships, self-development, character refinement. It's such a comprehensive way of just learning to become a better human being. And they always say that the Torah is a blueprint of life, or for life, and I totally see that. So I chose this design because I did not want to choose a rainbow. To me, a rainbow has a lot of different connotations, even though it makes the most sense to use the rainbow as an icon for the Noahides. I didn't want to use a dove either, which would be another icon to use for Noahide laws. Didn't want to do that either because of other, connotations. I like the idea of the water covering the earth. There is this, it's here in the beginning. I think it's Isaiah. They will not harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of God as water covers the seabed. That's that idea. And then the floating heart. Well, I chose the name Leba bat Noach, and Leba means heart or her heart. And I like the idea of the waters covering the earth, but it's not destroying waters, but it's loving waters of love, something like that. And I liked the shape of the title, the Noach project. You can see a wave in there, and to me that made a whole lot of sense to do. There are a couple of reasons. So first off, there's this idea of when you change your name, you change your mazal, your luck, your purpose in life, and I like that idea. I think Leba is a beautiful name since it means heart or her heart. It also is close to my actual name, but Noach, daughter of Noah, that makes a whole lot of sense to use. And then this book is not about me, it's about everybody else, the people that I interviewed, and also the hopefully other people who are reading this book. So I didn't want to focus on my given name. So that's why I did that. And you can see in the book, some people are using Bat or Ben Noach behind their names, maybe their English name or a Hebrew name that they took on, because with the same idea of, if I take on a Hebrew name that has an additional meaning. And a lot of names coming out of Christian culture, a lot of names have Christian roots, so a lot of people want to move away from that. It's actually the last story that person that I interviewed. I mean, truth be told, all these stories are amazing. Everybody has. I love asking people how they got to this path and why, because it's such an obscure thing. Why would you do this? And especially when you live somewhere out in the sticks and there's nobody around you who's a Noahide. So why on earth would you? But there's one Noahide, Pamela, but Noah, she's just amazing. Her life story is very difficult. That's how she starts with. I didn't grow up with safety. I grew up with survival. And then she tells about how her dad was gone, her mom was emotionally not available, and as a young little girl, her and her siblings were sent to foster homes, and she just went through a really difficult time. And then she got into bad relationships, and then she got into drugs, and then she got into jail, and difficult life. And yet there was always something that connected her to God, to Hashem. And initially this was Christian world, but she learned about Judaism because she had a Jewish boyfriend at some point in her life, and then she was sent on this path of becoming Jewish. She did a whole conversion process and was very close, and then at the end she chose not to become Jewish but become Noahide. And even though when I was speaking with her, she was saying that she's still struggling with addiction, with difficulties in life, and at the same time her connection with God, with Hashem, constantly pulls her back back on the straight and narrow, and that's her struggle. And at the end she told me that she so wants to bring the Noahide laws to jails, because what she was telling me is that when you go to jail, someone goes to jail, there's the choice that you can make to become either involved in Islam or in Christianity. So there's two religions, and it makes sense that somebody who is in jail, that they also turn toward a religion. And for her, she, her focus is on bringing the Noahide laws to jails and institutions, just to offer a third option. And I think that's incredible, and I think that actually needs to happen. So that's why I love her story so much, and I really hope that she's going to be able to do that. The words of Genesis didn't just enter my mind, they awakened my soul. What is your background? Question 1. I've always been a seeker, drawn to something greater, yet unable to find a connection through the faith of my upbringing. I was raised in a nominally Christian household. Both of my parents come from Catholic families. My father, as the eldest son, was sent to seminary to become a priest, but he left just before ordination, abandoning religion altogether. When my parents married and had children, they did baptize us, but other than that, faith was never a central part of our home. We moved frequently, and my sister and I were placed in whatever school was nearest, Catholic, Protestant, or public. So I absorbed bits and pieces from different traditions. Only when visiting my grandparents, we would pray before and after meals and occasionally attend church, but it was a passive experience for me. It didn't touch me in any deeper or meaningful way. When my father traveled to India in the early 1980s for his work to interview the Dalai Lama, the experience left a lasting impact. Returning home, he devoted himself to Buddhism and became a passionate supporter of the Tibetan cause. His enthusiasm sparked my own curiosity, and I soon began studying Tibetan Buddhism as well. Later, while my father attended classes at a spiritual center in Amsterdam, I explored Zen Buddhism through my practice of Aikido. From there, my interests broadened to include earth-based spirituality, Wicca, and any path that seemed to hold answers. Eventually, my search brought me to an event called Fire Dance, an alchemical fire circle devoted to inner transformation. The journey led me to the United States, where I met my first husband at a Sacred Fire Circle retreat. After some years of long-distance dating, we married and I eventually relocated. My first 5 years in the US were a time of deep exploration, immersing myself in festivals, artistic communities, yoga, ecstatic dance, and various spiritual gatherings. For a time, I was even part of a Hindu Sangha, studying under a guru. Eventually, when my first marriage ended, and shortly thereafter, I met my current husband.